the idea of Karl Marx was that, I mean, the ideologies in religions, when he said that it's like opium, he also meant for the commoners, for the usual people who do it without knowing that, and that's how they buy into that. Well, I mean, they're not conscious. False consciousness, by that Marx meant that, and they do it. They don't know it, and that's how the ideologies in religious function, and the society, and in capitalist society, and capitalist society is predominantly religionized anywhere in the world. All the religions have been appropriated and have appropriated reciprocally capitalism, all of them. And the Marxian trick is the fact that you have to, even when you do it, you have to be, you shouldn't be. Well, that term would apply here, woke. So that could be like, from a Marxian view, do it but know it. So just go, don't betray your desires, go to the grocery and buy that product, but don't buy the ideology. That would be the Marxian trick. The only condition would be with the terms like ecology, organic products, ecological, and single origin. Yeah, single origin means that whoever has just produced that and wherever, whatever. That means that it's written on the pack that you're buying it. So even that is an ideological sign that the buyer is conditioned in capitalism. You have to pay more because, I mean, if you are buying something that is single origin, which means that you know where it is from. Unlike, there's a packet says that, oh, this was packed here, but before it was packed here, it was gathered somewhere else, but it was gathered and then through some means it went somewhere else and then packed somewhere else and then it went there and there. You have no idea. And it doesn't say anything about the origin or something like that. But yeah, even that is appropriated by capitalism. A few days ago, I bought a pack of single origin. Let me just use the term an example of a single origin pasta. There's a brand of the pasta Villa, Contacentessuno, bellissimo, or something like that. Let me just say that keeping everything else constant and isolating this pasta Villa pasta that was supposedly single origin. I paid 3 times as much as I paid to the normal pasta that I just had yesterday. I finished the 2. Well, the experience of the single origin, which is already being reciprocally appropriated by capitalism. That's the reason why it says the single origin, which means that by eating the pasta and with the experience of eating the pasta, you can tell the smell of the shit and the fart of the producer. Of course, I'm just making a humor about it. But yeah, I mean, the idea is that you know the origin, you know who produced this, so you feel some sort of like closeness to the producers or the geographies where it was produced, and because it's more or less like even more than organic or something like that. So there's this paying for this experience. And that is very well appropriated and conditioned and the settings of the capitalist economy and the groceries and supermarkets and Well, the idea that doesn't mean that. I mean, the idea is bad. I mean, the idea is much more than ethical, because of the fact that you know that in that process of producing and going through all the capitalist ways and modes of distribution and processing and packing and gathering, where the connections are lost and in heavy and great details, or the however you would like to just like caption that or frame that. Some things are lost. That's the idea in capitalism. But the single origin, the idea of single origin, claims to fill in that loss of, let's say that not the loss in betraying your desire for the truth. I'm switching to the philosophical and even psychoanalytic language. Truth means that the origin, the origin, you know where it comes from. And in capitalism, the origin is lost. That's one of the means of the alienating or alienation in capitalism. There's this loss of the truth. There are only appearances and some codings on the appearances. Codings could be visual or verbal codings, and there's a lot of happenings that has been long surpassed or repressed or distorted, and in those appearances. This is not a coincidence to have seen that term. One of the neologisms in the last 10 years was post-truth, which predominantly referenced the mainstream media, which is even today full of what might be described as like the unreal representations of the non-real, or even in the psychoanalytic sense, the real itself. Well, I mean, I'm just like keeping that aside. That was my presupposition in the beginning of this episode. I'm keeping these aside, and the product, single origin, gives you the idea that even if not the experience, I mean, of course, I couldn't tell the smell of the fart or the shit after having consumed that pasta, for which I paid 3 times as high as the normal pasta of one of the same or similar brands. And well, of course, I couldn't tell the smell of the shit or the fart, or where the producers were from, but I could tell and decode the very ideology and politics and economics around packing and situating a conditioning that pack of pasta on the shelf, maybe, just maybe, only for me. Because there was just one pack of pasta there, and the shells of the ecological or more or less vegetarian products. And the day after I bought and consumed the pasta, I went to the very same grocery, and the pasta was not there anymore. Maybe just because I had just recorded the first one of the first recordings on the single origin before returning to the grocery. Whatever the idea of, I use the term, the Marxian term. I tried to just like adopt or give an example of this one of the new catchy terms or neologisms known as the woke. Well, I don't think that's a Marxian term, but would apply to in the Marxian sense of false consciousness and being woke. Well, of course, when Marx used this term in Capitalism, false consciousness, which is for which these examples of products and the objects that are full of ideological encodings in the package on the packages and consuming with false consciousness. Cognitive sciences have worked a lot in this in 20th century after Marx. Of course, they're like much more scientific work done on the idea of consuming and where to put a consumption product in a grocery and which shelf, right or left, top or down, and so on and so forth. And that's, of course, for to make the object consume more or less, depending on the economic moves and maneuvers of the retailers. And these are not ideological. I mean, an object in a grocery is not situated or put on a shelf for religious or I don't know, for communistic purposes. But of course, consumption, that's the idea in groceries. But the packing and all the signs and the encodings on the packages could be a lot ideological and religious and so on and so forth. Well, vogue means in this sense, not in the sense that is being used in the last few years, but in the sense of, doing and knowing it while doing it, buying the product but not buying the ideology. Even in my case, I paid 3 times as high as the normal pasta. And the idea, one of the ideas around this neologism would be do it but no it or buy it. Buy the product but don't buy the ideology, or buy the object or whatever the idea is but not the ideology. Well, yeah, ideology means that there are logics that put the ideas into function. Buying the idea would be one thing, and not buying the ideology, which means that not the logic. Well, there might be an idea which is single origin. The idea is like, I would buy the idea, but I wouldn't buy the ideology around a single origin and all the means and the religious meanings and senses, ideologic means and senses that might have been incorporated into those encodings and signs and the packages of the products, including where it is produced and where it was distributed and where does the yeast of, I don't know, of a bottle of beer was from, and so on and so forth. I think that single origin is would make a good example or case for one of these not necessarily Marxian but more or less psychoanalytic term in terms of the consumption habits. Conscious, unconscious, and in capitalism, false consciousness. Well, Freudian term sounds more liberal than the Marxian term. Compared to the Marxian term, it's full of critiques of the capitalist